Alrighty guys, today I'm going to be replacing a lot of my brake components today. So that includes the rotors, the pads, and also the stainless steel lines. So they will be stainless steel now. After I replace them with the ECS tuning, kind of made to fit ones, are pretty good. Over on this side, so as you can see, I got the StopTech Sport Rotors over here. They are the same size as the stock ones. These are Zimmerman, I believe, but they're slotted and drilled. They look a lot better, I think. Those will function better, less heat. I think they made better materials as well. I couldn't tell you what they are, but all I know is it's better than these things. My rears definitely need to be replaced. They had some hot spots, some glazing going on, a bit of a lip. The front ones, not too bad, but I figured might as well replace them because I can. I have the means to, and also I'll be running E85 soon with a stage 2 low pressure fuel pump. So I figured, I'm pretty much FBO at this point, except for like inlets maybe, that pretty much means I'll need some better stopping power. I've also got some Hawk HPS 5.0 brake pads. Those are pretty new. Heard great things about them. Less dust, and also better response off the pedal. And also we got the ECS tuning stainless steel lines there. That's the red thing you can see right there. Not quite sure if the old lines have anything wrong with them, but they get worn out after a long time. This car is about 11 years old now. It's 2020, so they expand and contract all the time. With heat, especially, can get kind of messy. So we'll get back some feel with the stainless steel lines. All right, we're at the front of the car now on the passenger side. I'm going to give you a brief rundown of what we have to do. So first, the outer caliper brackets come out. We got to take this guy out with a flathead screwdriver of some sort. Kind of push these down. Little tab down there has come out. That'll pop out. It'll be pretty easy. There are two guiding pins at the back for the top of the caliper, or the front of the caliper rather. They're behind two dust caps. I'm not sure if I can see them from here. Let's see. There's one right there. I'll probably take off my finger actually. Let's see. Yep. So that guy just popped out pretty easily. There's one at the bottom, one at the top. They're both 7mm Allens. They basically keep this top part, this front part in place. And then it'll kind of pop off afterwards. We need to kind of pry the caliper off of it by pushing the piston in. Not very hard to do at all, but we'll have to do that. And then after that's done, the pads can come out, at least one side can. Then there are two 18mm bolts. They're pretty visible. Let me see if I can find one. Yeah, there's one right there, one on the top as well. Those are kind of difficult to take off, but with an impact gun, not a problem at all. But be sure to coat everything in PB Blaster first. I already have, so this has been sitting for almost the entire day. So it really shouldn't be an issue at this point. So once the caliper's fully off, there's still a line here. So in fact, I might do this first just to make things easier. Because I'm replacing the lines, it really would be beneficial to take it off first. So far what I've done is I've just put a breaker bar in between my seat, my driver's seat, and the brake pedal. I'm just pushing them together so the brake pedal is all the way down. So by having that all the way down, it'll leak a little bit of fluid when we take the line out, but it won't be that bad. It'll leak for a little bit, but it'll stop. And we're gonna undo it over here. So it's 11mm down here. We're gonna undo this guy, and then the entire line will pop off the top. There are a few grommets that need to come out over here. Pretty easy to do. So then the entire caliper can come off the car. We'll put it aside for the time being before we put it back on the car. There is a set screw, 6mm Allen down here. Use an impact gun, but keep it kind of pressurized on that so it doesn't strip it. You don't want that at all. My front rotors came off really easily. They just kind of plopped off right after I took that set screw out. But it can get stuck on there, so we need a mallet, a rubber hammer of some sort, and it'll come out with some persuasion. And yeah, we're gonna get started now, put it on a tripod, and yeah. I got my 7mm Allen now. I'm gonna take off those Allens at the back. Got one out. There are two, so one is longer. The longer one goes at the bottom. The top one is shorter, so you kind of need to unscrew this much. It'll kind of slide out, so be aware of that. Second one is out. Alright, so I'm going to loosen that 11mm at the bottom right there, and then let whatever fluid comes out into a pan below. Like I said, it should not be very much. And I'm going the wrong way. Good job, Samuel. There we go. Probably just cut my hand on that dust shield right there, but it's okay. Did I? Nah, I'm good. Alright, cool. Takes a little bit of time, but really not a big deal. Just angling that wrench on there a little bit. There we go. I'll put some gloves on because this is actually pretty corrosive stuff. There we go. Pull it out of these. Now we're ready to take out the front portion of the caliper, but first we're going to loosen the piston up a little bit, just because it's pressing against the disc right now. We kind of want to get that out of there. So, kind of by pushing the flathead in there and kind of twisting around, it'll eventually make its way out. It is squirting some brake fluid, I just noticed, so. Because the piston's going in, so make sure you keep track of that. We're pretty much ready to take it out now. As you can see, it's pretty loose. Oh, looks like not quite. Oh, and yeah, we're good. It's out. Put this aside. Now, keep in mind this line still has fluid in it, but you can only get out by compressing the piston. So, just be careful where you put this. I take this old pad off right now. As you can see, there's still quite a lot of life on this. It's not too worn down. I'd say it's probably mid-life, so I'm going to keep these aside for now in case I need them again. But with FCP Euro, you know, the new pads, I'll just replace them whenever for free, whenever they run low. So got that unlimited warranty, which is fantastic. So next up, we got to take off these two 18mm bolts in the back. I'm going to use an impact gun to take those off, so it should be pretty easy. With the full caliper bracket off, now we can take the rotor off. So just take off the set screw first. It's a 6mm Allen. I'm going to use an impact for this. Pretty easily comes off actually, so I'm gonna put this aside now. I'm gonna get some of that surface rust off with this drill and a wire brush head. Got some brake clean right here. Just gonna clean off the surface real quick. That should be good. Alright, so I've got my new StopTech rotor right over here. One thing to note is that most of these rotors, at least these ones for sure, have this little oil on them on both sides. So you want to spray them off with some brake clean before you use them. Don't forget the back side as well. Wipe this one off. whatever other contaminants are on here will just burn off as you use the brake, so I wouldn't really worry too much about that. But definitely don't want to have any oil on there. So here I've got the caliper and the old brake pad. Let's just pop this guy out right here. If you guys don't notice, the old line is still attached. That's a 14mm right here. But first, before we do that, I want to take this pan of the fluid I got over here, right here, and I'm going to take this old line, put it in here, and as I compress the piston back into its original place, it's going to spit all the brake fluid back in there in the line. No need for a tool when it's not connected to the car. So that's pretty easy. The piston's back in place. You know, while you're here, you might want to get some brake clean and kind of clean out this piston, any brake that's been caked up over some time. But first, I'm going to take off the brake line itself from the piston, or back in the caliper, should I say, with a 14mm wrench. There we go. Alright, so here I've got the back of the caliper bracket here. Pretty straightforward process. Just want to get out all this extra brake dust. This up on the floor right here, it just came off when I set the brake, this bracket down, so it is pretty caked up with stuff. If you can take a closer look there, it's quite, you know, full of dust. So definitely want to get as much as you can out with a flathead, something like that. As you can see, maybe by using this. That just goes to show how much is really on there. Just do your best to get a good amount off. You don't want that stuff sitting there if it doesn't need to be. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Take the wire brush to some contact surfaces, such as, you know, back here where the 18mm were. I'm going to go around there, and then, yeah, we should be good to go. Alright, so I've cleaned up this bracket pretty well, I think. Now we're almost pretty much ready for the pads to put in the this rear bracket and the caliper itself. So basically, before we do that, I'm going to lightly grease up the contact points between the pads and the bracket itself. So over here, as you can see, there's a little groove there. So the brake pad will sit in there. Both of them will sit in there when it's all put back together. So put a light film of grease, some brake grease in these areas. That should be all you need for those. And then also put some on the back of the pads. I'll kind of show you along the way. I'm going to grease up these areas first, and I'll be back. Alright, so here's the caliper itself. We got the two new pads right here. The one with 3 prongs will go into the piston itself. This guy will go on the other side. This guy has a clip on it, which the stock pads do not. As you can see over here, there's no clip here. They kind of just slid in and they would just stay in place. But it's a little bit more secure. Shouldn't really affect anything else besides the fact that you slide it in over here first before you put it back on. So before we put these in the caliper itself, I want to grease these up lightly on the back. It'll reduce squeaking. So this is the grease I've been using. It's just some CRC stuff. Pretty good from what I understand. Shouldn't really matter too much, but yeah. Lightly grease the backs of both of these. Just whatever you do, don't get it on this side. It's a little bit here I can already see, but shouldn't be a huge deal. It'll burn off eventually. Maybe some brake clean to get some more of it off, but yeah, that's the basic gist of it. Alright, so we've got that light coat of grease on the back of the pads. I'm going to install them back in the rotors right now. I'm going to do a quick video of that. Go, that's one. And this one goes in the piston. And there we go. Now we're going to put the new disc on. So line up the set screw hole with the set screw over there. There we go. Now we got to get the set screw started. Oh. Oh no. There we go. Tighten this by hand a little bit more. Looks like that's it. All right. So I've got my caliper bracket over here. I'm gonna get some Loctite real quick. This is what I'm using. Not sure it really matters, but just the blue stuff. Gonna put a little dab right here. Also right here. And over here as well. Alright, now I'm just going to torque these bolts to 80 foot-pounds. There we go, that's one. And that's two. Alright, before we get too far, I want to install this new ECS tuning stainless steel exact fit brake line to the caliper. It goes in the exact same spot as the old one. We're going to hand tighten it first, and then we'll use the 14mm to tighten it down fully. Alright, we should be good. Put the caliper back on the car. There we go. Perfect. Now we're going to want to reinstall these guide pins over here. I'm going to clean them off real quick, then put some grease on them before we put them back in the caliper and finish this stuff off. This is the shorter one, basically the top one, so kind of greased up lightly. As it spins in the caliper itself, it'll move around, so it'll be perfect. 7mm Allen, we're going to get that started. Same process for the other one. Don't forget to put these dust caps on as well once you're done. Just going to put this one down there now. Now I'm going to try to fit the brake lines back in. First we got these grommets over here. Alright, the grommets are in. I noticed for this one over here, the line doesn't quite fit the grommet properly, even though they're exact fit from ECS, my bad. But I noticed it's the same for the other side as well. So I kind of put it on the outer loop of that grommet and the inner one over here. So shouldn't really have an issue. It does stay in there. It's not going to go anywhere, so we should be fine. Now, of course, going to put the line back in to the hard line. It'll kind of fit in first. There we go. And now we can just go ahead and screw it in. You guys can't see that, but you get the idea. Alright, the last thing we gotta do for this front rotor is put the this retainer clip, anti-rattle clip back in place. Should be pretty straightforward. Just kind of gotta tuck these guys behind. Once you get those two kind of behind there, we got to get a flathead. We got to pry it up so we can get that clip back in there. Took a little playing around, but I finally got it. You really got to manipulate it pretty well. It's kind of annoying, but eventually you'll get it. It's not a huge deal. Not a deal breaker by any means, but yeah, the front rotor is now done, and we can move on to the rear. Before I continue, I just want to bring you guys over to the driver's side where I've got the brake pad wear indicator installed. I'm just going to bring this over here. So after you guys install the brakes you just saw, this indicator basically just slides into the groove right there. It's pretty easy to do. And then the wire, you basically trace it back to this little box. It's very straightforward. If you guys just look at the wire, I mean, you can pretty much figure it out. A couple of grommets go here and there. Really not a huge deal at all. But definitely you guys want to get a new one before you drive the car, because the old ones, they're pretty disposable. Not that expensive, like 12 bucks. Not even. So yeah, just go ahead and get yourself one of those. And in fact, with these brake pads, actually came with a kit with the Hawk HPS 5.0 pads. So that is pretty cool. But yeah, now we're gonna move on to the rear brakes, which are actually quite a lot easier, I found. Just because it's a little bit smaller, not as cumbersome to move around. But make sure your parking brake is off. I made the mistake of leaving it on because, I thought you jack the car up, you gotta leave the parking brake on, which you should, but it locks the disc in place, so it won't come off. Figured that out the hard way. I tried taking it off for quite some time and it wasn't coming off. Finally thought, what if the parking brake is stopping it? So I released the parking brake and sure enough, it came right off, so yeah. Alright, so the rears. My rears are actually quite a bit more worn down than the front ones. As you can see by the different colorations there, there's a pretty big lip there, so definitely time for these to go. But first things first, we gotta take that clip off, just like the front. A little bit smaller, a little bit differently shaped, but again, use a flathead screwdriver, you should be able to figure it out. Alright, just like the fronts, there are two dust caps in the back containing two 7mm Allens. We're going to get those out now. Got the two pins out, the same size, doesn't matter which one it goes. So now we're going to loosen the brake lines, which are actually a little bit different from the spot, a lot smaller this time. Alright, so the rear brake lines are pretty similar to the fronts and how you actually take them out, but a little bit different location. It's a much shorter line, that's the line right here, and it goes over there. But same story with the 11mm bolt, or a screw rather, on the top. If it'll focus, there it is. And it'll just undo itself pretty much the exact same way that the fronts did it. So I'm just going to do that real quick and I'll be back. Alright, so by taking those pins out and loosening the pads a little bit, taking the line out fully, and like I said, kind of pushing back the piston a little bit with this flathead screwdriver, just like the fronts, the caliper is now off the car. However, we do have a brake pad wear sensor, so we got to track that one down and figure out how to take one out. It should be the same process taking the other one out on the driver's side of the front, but I'll show you guys a little bit more how to do that. So this basically, you just got to follow this cable, and I can see it goes back kind of around and then up behind the fender lining of the rear. So we got to kind of track it down, find the connection, and then take it out. Alrighty, so at this point I've taken off the caliper bracket itself. Instead of 18mm at the front, the rears are 60mm. Comes up pretty easily as well. However, the rotor itself was pretty stuck on the actual wheel bearing for me, so you have to take a massive mallet like this and pretty much just slap the face of the rotor, and it would finally come off for about 3 hits. If you have a small hammer like this, try to use this for a while, it just doesn't work. So for that reason, it may be a good idea to put some anti-seize just on the edge, this little lip right here. Not the face, just the lip. Just to ensure that it won't be that hard to get off the next time, however it is possible. So I'm probably not going to do that this time just because I don't really have any and I want to get this job done. But that's a problem for when I change the brakes next time. So, not a huge deal. Alrighty, so once we get the brake pad wear indicator back on the car, we also want to torque down the rear 60mm bolts. Back here we already took off to 50 foot-pounds, and then that's about it. After this is done, we need to bleed the brakes. I'll make a separate video on that because it's a pretty common thing you need to do otherwise, other than just doing a rotor change or brake pad change. So that'll be a separate video that should be out like right after this one. Yeah, I'm going to tighten those up, and then I'll be back to you guys when I'm done with that. Alrighty guys, the rotors are fully installed, pads are set, brake lines are primed, we've already bled the entire system, got new brake fluid all around, so this thing's ready to go. I pumped the brakes a few times just to get the pistons back in place. The calipers are properly seated now, with the brake pads touching the rotors as they should. And yeah, we're pretty much all set now. This is it. And all we have left to do is bed the brake pads on the new rotors once the car is back on the ground and ready to go. So I'll get back to you guys when I'm there. Pretty standard procedure. It actually should sit in the back of your rotors box, or pads box from the Hawk. There are the instructions right there. So I'll be following this. I'll try and do it in my neighborhood, but just be safe about it. Also gotta clean up this mess of a garage. I can make these into planters now, but headlights looking good. Yeah, that's it for this video. Let me know if you guys have any questions or comments or whatever, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. See ya.